we saw that there was a gap for our supports for students with autism at the college. I have a very close relationship because my brother is actually autistic, so I knew that there were struggles, but there were a lot of things that he experienced that I didn't know what he was going through. So I thought around how to best support them, and that's when we came across the ICAN network.
I've noticed over the years when my son links in with people who actually get him, and teachers that get him, and other adults that get him, or family members that just understand and embrace his strengths. I think that there's a marvellous effect that happens, and when I can see that happening in his relationships with people, when he feels that he's understood, it just brings out his light.
Who better to know the ins and outs of the students in a way? I know everybody on the spectrum is an individual, but having that insight of coming through school themselves and then leading a school-based program for these students, they'd have that understanding of having gone through it themselves already.
It's really important to understand how a student with autism functions in a classroom and how we can best support their needs, so that they don't get put into a box of that they're disruptive or they're distracting, or they're not falling into another category of like behaviour management, for example. We wanted to meet their needs so that they were understood and they were accepted and they felt like they could be themselves in a classroom, or if it wasn't a typical classroom space, it was another space that they could go to, and that it just helped the relationship between teacher, student, parent, us in wellbeing, that we all kind of had the same understanding of what the child needed and how they could best succeed in school.
I found that when he started engaging with the ICAN mentoring programs a couple of years ago, from the very first session, he was just really engaged and felt supported and listened to. And I think it's that thing of just feeling a part of this neurodiverse community that embraces differences and strengths and talents and creativity. And I think that's probably why I chose the ICAN network.
Engaging families in anything can be challenging. With ICAN, though, it's quite interesting. We don't find it particularly difficult, and I think that's now, having had the program run in the school for a number of years, there's a sort of an organisational or community knowledge of the program and how successful it can be and how supportive it is of individuals.
We weren't quite sure at the very beginning how we were going to manage the whole idea of introducing this program into a mainstream school setting. So obviously disclosure and all those sorts of things involving families and students and whatnot was something that we really needed to think through very carefully. But I obviously followed Chris's advice about holding our parent forums and all of those type of strategies that are part of the program. So we started off with putting little bits and pieces in our newsletter. Then when we actually had our students that are on the spectrum flagged from the previous year, we invited the family with the child to the talks that Chris actually gives to the families.
That initial connection with families to get them on board was having a parents only session with Chris, where he was able to sort of go through his personal experience and I suppose justify and rationalize the program in itself. And then, as I said before, his background certainly alluded to why it's so important.
Having a really open dialogue with parents about all the different challenges within a school for a young person and the things that the school is doing to try and support young people to manage those challenges and rise to them. So it's sort of a combination, I think, of parents and carers being able to see the positives that other families and other young people have experienced, and then keeping that conversation really, really open and ongoing about the impact that joining a program like ICAN might have for their particular young person.
Throughout the year, in parent-teacher interviews, it's discussed as well that, you know, how they're going in the sessions and what we've seen of them coming out of the sessions as well.
So currently I'm talking to our Year 6 students' parents that are starting with us next year, and if they're on this, if they're students that are on the spectrum, I actually bring up the ICAN program and I say, have you heard about it? And I start getting them thinking about that and encouraging them to go onto the website. And it's amazing, there's quite a few that are already doing the online programming with their students, and we're actually attracting enrolments to come to the college because they know we have the ICAN program.
From my point of view, it's been really easy to engage families, I think, in a program like this. In the community, I think there's a big gap for strength-based autism type groups, especially for adolescents. I think that they're much more likely to be for younger children. So I think a group like ICAN, it's definitely filling the gap in the community. Often in the community, they do come at quite a significant cost for families. So being that it's at school, it's cost effective, it's time effective. The students don't have to leave school to go to a group, for example, take up their weekends. They even get out of class. So that can be an easy selling point for some families and some students and doing something different.
If you, as a school, you're valuing things, the young people who are involved in that value system get a sense of pride and get a sense of confidence from being valued intrinsically. And then I think with the program and the way it's structured, and it's very careful way that the mentors support young people to build their personal skills as they're ready to build them, is absolutely working towards creating confidence for the individuals. You know, practicing speaking in front of each other, practicing sharing, the different kinds of team building games that are played, you know, the activities, they all support the individuals to become more confident in their own abilities, and then in their abilities to participate in groups and socialise.
It's just definitely helped them to feel included and that there's no shame in who they are and what they like.
His confidence has increased due to his the supports around him, but also because of the ICAN network and the mentoring sessions. I think one particular thing they've really given him is a voice and confidence to speak up, and kind of a language around that, because not that I'm in the sessions, but when I talk to Christian about the sessions afterwards, he does talk about some of the topics and what the mentors have talked about in their experiences, and how it feels to be autistic and conversations around autistic identity. And I think that knowledge is power, and just having these mentors to talk to and just guide Christian and tell him, look, it's okay if you're not comfortable with something, you can speak up and explain why you're not comfortable. So I think just talking to you now, it helps me to articulate that one of the big things Christian's got from the ICAN network outside of confidence building is self-advocacy, and the ability now to advocate for himself independently rather than me having to step in.
I would say absolutely without hesitation that every school should be running an ICAN program.
Find a school that's nearby if they run it and come and see it if you're still unsure, but do it.
The main thing I've really recognized this year is having that holistic support from top to bottom or from end to end, whichever way you want to look at it, is is initially having that relationship with myself and the families and the students, but having that professional learning for teachers to be aware of the ins and outs of what it means to be a student living on the spectrum, to have that conversation with parents, to have the perspectives, not only in what we sort of can learn about autistic students ourselves or students with autism, but having lived experience, having personal experience, and having their invested energies and experiences is, I suppose, the most valuable sort of side of things.
No matter what part of your journey of acceptance you are, the ICAN can meet you through that journey and can support you through that. And I think that's one thing that I definitely remind the kids, is that sometimes it can be quite confronting if you're not so comfortable, with the word autistic. I think because it is sometimes can be misconstrued or can be taken negatively. But the way that ICAN network is that they frame it in a way that it takes away all the negative and it just focuses on the positive, and it focuses on the person, and that's just part of you. It's not all of you. And I think that is so important to remember. And I think it's great for parents to see that, and for teachers and for the students. And the mentors do an amazing job at going at the pace of each student, and somehow they do it in a way that is just so effortless. So I think the program is so amazing, and I want it for years and years to come.
I would absolutely say if your child has the capacity and interest to join an ICAN network mentoring program, absolutely 100% go ahead. Just it's such a wonderful opportunity for an autistic young person to find their tribe and connect and feel comfortable. So yeah, I would absolutely not hesitate to recommend the ICAN network to other parents, without a doubt.
There are young people in schools who are feeling marginalised and are feeling underconfident or undervalued or not included, and ICAN is a program that supports a section of those young people to feel really really included, and to build their confidence and become much happier, much more engaged members of a school community. There's just no reason not to.